And we got our Uncharted trophies, so that is officially the end of Uncharted 2. I'm aware this is pre-Avengers. I'm very aware of that. And I know, but like, I can't help but associate that with Joss Whedon. That is a Joss Whedon thing. Like, even before the Avengers, if you watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, or Angel, or Dollhouse, or any of his girl power things that, in hindsight, weren't as girl power as we all wanted to believe that they were, yeah. Yeah, that's a thing he does in basically every part of his written work. Or his directed work. The lame one-liner to break the tension. Because tension just can't be allowed to stand on its own. But I said opening this that a lot of people consider Uncharted 2 specifically to be the absolute pinnacle of the Uncharted series. And it's going to be a while before we get to Uncharted 3. But when we do, you'll understand that the style of development that got Naughty Dog as far as it did starts to break down at around exactly Uncharted 3. In fact, it's kind of hard to believe that the same development pipeline that led to Uncharted 3 is the same one that they used in Uncharted 1 and 2. But there's no reason to dispute that, because this is, like, Naughty Dog themselves have confirmed as much. When you think about how tight and how well like put together and polished this entire game is, the idea that a lot of this, like, people were just writing around set pieces. We had to have a thing in Nepal, so we're going to do some story thing to explain why we're going to Nepal. Or the museum in Borneo, or the museum, or the jungle in Borneo, like, all of that was written around. Like, the set pieces were made before the writing was put in place. That's a little astonishing, considering how well tied together and connected the entire project ends up being overall. When you get to Uncharted 3, you start to see, oh, this isn't going to work anymore. And also, part of Uncharted 3's problem is that real-life issues outside of development, like schedule with the actors, becomes an issue as well. So they have to write around that too. It becomes a big old mess. Uncharted 3 becomes a really, really big old mess. And as seamless and as polished as 1 and 2 tend to be, 3 is where the seams really start to show. But for now, like, when most people think of Uncharted, most people think of probably this game or Uncharted 4 at this point. And, like, this game is like, Chloe was introduced in this game, and Chloe is probably one of the coolest characters in the franchise. She gets her own standalone title with Nadine later, and that's also a really good game. That proves you don't need Drake for Uncharted. Like, this is where kind of the... Like, Elena and Drake didn't really have a romance in 1. It was kind of like a buddy-buddy thing. And this is where they really established the romantic tension between Elena and Drake. Also about Chloe, Claudia Black is a astonishing performer, and everything she does is really, really good. She's why Morgan doesn't suck, despite her writing being pretty bad in Dragon Age. There, I said it. And, you know, Lazarevich is a fun villain. Like, Lazarevich is a fun villain to hate. Because there is no depth there. He is just a bad dude. I have some gripes with Morgan in Dragon Age, and how she hates everything I do. But we'll deal with that later. Claudia Black is not the problem there. It's the fact that Morgan hates everything I do. Every fucking thing I do, Morgan doesn't like it. But Claudia Black's performance as Morgan is great. It's just the fact that she fucking hates everything I do is the problem. But you can see, like, a lot of the, like, experience from the first game where the actors, like Elena, like Emily Rose, and Nolan North, and Richard McGonagall, all of them really, really comfortable in their roles now that they've established those roles in the first game. It's just a very solid experience all around. Like, this is a very, very good game. And the shooting, like, honestly, like, all my gripes about the many times I've died, the actual combat in this game is really, really active. And you don't get shooter combat like Uncharted in most other games. What separates Uncharted combat from most other combat is how much movement and navigation does end up taking a big role in the fighting. Where you are, like, using platforming and ledge navigation and some light stealth, but not really, elements to tip the odds back in your favor against these soldiers who are a little less mobile than you, but still fairly mobile. You'll see the game actively fights you if you try to stay still in one cover spot. Like, that is what the grenades are for. The grenades is the job of enemies throwing grenades at you is to get you to start moving again. Like, there's actually a surprising depth to the combat despite how light it is. It's not quite Gears of War. I can see why people think it is, but it's not. And that is part of what makes this game really fun. Like, those fights against the Guardians at the end are also really, really good. It feels good. They feel like a threat despite not really being terribly hard to kill. They still feel threatening, which is honestly more important than them actually being a threat. I think we're almost done the credits. But that is Uncharted 2. It's just a very, very, very good game. That was made under pretty tryst working conditions now that we know in hindsight. Naughty Dog, get your shit together. Unionize. But this is where I would play some multiplayer if this collection bothered to port over the multiplayer, because that was a good multiplayer mode that we will never see again. Did Uncharted 4 have multiplayer? I don't think it did. We'll if we ever get around to that, we'll discuss it then. Yeah, the multiplayer in Uncharted 2 and 3 was actually really fucking good. It was actually really good multiplayer. Because it took the parts that the mobility and the verticality that Uncharted combat I was telling you about earlier, and actually made it part of the game. Like, it was a really, really strong multiplayer mode. Last of Us multiplayer was really... I also played that. That was also really good. I played the shit out of Last of Us multiplayer back when it was a thing. That was a really good multiplayer mode too. But we will probably not be playing any of that on stream because I don't really have it in me to play Last of Us again. After 2, I was not a big fan of Last of Us Part 2, and I don't like the direction they took that series. Fundamentally, I think they made a bad choice with Last of Us Part 2. But That's not here and there. You don't really want to listen to me rant about a game that we're not playing. For now, we will call it quits with Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Notice the word honor isn't there. It's just Among Thieves. But for now, remember to do all your COVID stuff. Minority Lives Matter. Have a great evening, and I will see you next time. We will probably be playing the remake of Resident Evil 4. Let's see if I can get my friend to join me for that. We will probably be playing Resident Evil 4, the remake. Until then, bye, y'all.